Once upon a time, in midwinter, when the snowflakes were falling like feathers from heaven, a queen sat sewing at her window, which had a frame of black ebony wood. As she sewed, she looked up at the snow and pricked her finger with the needle. 3 drops of blood fell into the snow. The red on the white looked so beautiful that she thought to herself, "If only I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood in this frame." Soon afterward, she had a little daughter who was as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the ebony wood, and therefore they called her Little Snow White. And as soon as the child was born, the queen died. A year later, the king took himself another wife. She was a beautiful woman, but she was proud and arrogant, and she could not stand it if anyone might surpass her beauty. She had a magic mirror, and every morning she stood before it, looked at herself, and said,
"Mirror, mirror in my hand, who is the fairest in the land? You, my queen, are fairest of all."
Then she was satisfied, for she knew that the mirror spoke nothing but the truth. Snow White grew up and became even more beautiful. When she was 12 years old, she was as beautiful as the light of day, even more beautiful than the queen herself.
I'm so pretty!
One day, the queen once again asked her mirror,
"Mirror, mirror in my hand, who is the fairest of the land? You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is way prettier than you."
The queen became very angry. Every time she looked at Snow White, her stomach would churn. Her envy and pride grew ever greater, like a weed in her heart, until she had no peace day and night. Then she summoned a huntsman and said to him,
"Take Snow White out into the woods. I never want to see her again. Kill her, and as proof of her death, bring me her lungs and her liver."
The huntsman obeyed and took Snow White into the woods. He was about to kill her when she began to cry, saying,
"Oh, Mr. Huntsman, please don't kill me! I'll run away into the wild, wild woods, and I won't come back, never, ever, ever!"
And because she was so beautiful, the huntsman took pity on her, and he said,
"Fine, run away, poor child."
"Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you!"
Nah, I'm sure the animals will get her anyways.
The huntsman killed a boar and took its liver and lungs back to the queen.
Yep, looks good to me.
Snow White had escaped, but now she was all alone in the great forest, and was so afraid that she just looked at all the leaves on the trees and did not know what to do. Then she began to run. She ran as far as her feet could carry her, and just as evening was about to fall, she saw a little house and went inside in order to rest.
Wow, this house is so small! Oh, food!
Snow White ate a little bit of food from each plate and drank a sip of punch from every cup. Then, when she was tired, she decided to go to sleep in one of the little beds.
Wow, I'm tired. I'm gonna go sleep in one of those small beds.
Shortly after she had fallen asleep, the owners of the house came home. 3 dwarves, who noticed something just wasn't quite right.
Somebody's been sitting in my chair!
Somebody ate from my plate!
Somebody's been eating my bread!
Somebody ate my vegetables!
Oh well.
Somebody used my fork!
I can beat that. Somebody used my knife.
Guys! Somebody drank from my mug.
Then the first one saw that his blanket was rumpled and said,
Someone stepped on my bed.
The second one came running up and shouted,
Someone's been lying in mine as well!
but the third one, looking at his bed, found Snow White lying there asleep. They looked at her and began crying.
She's so beautiful!
I've never seen something so beautiful!
She's amazing. Can I touch her?
They were so happy that they did not wake her, but let her continue to sleep there in the bed. The next morning, Snow White woke up, and when she saw the 3 dwarves, she was frightened. But they were friendly and asked,
What's your name?
My name is Snow White.
How did you find our house?
Well, my stepmother tried to kill me, and the husband was going to cut out my liver and lungs, but then I cried and said I was too pretty to die. So he let me go, and I ran and ran and ran, and a long time
stuff like that, then you can stay here.
Okay.
So she kept house for them. Every morning they went to the mountains looking for ore and gold, and in the evening when they came back home, their meal had to be ready. During the day, the girl was alone. The good dwarves warned her, saying,
So you gotta be careful about your crazy stepmother. She's gonna find out you're here eventually.
Yeah, so don't let anyone in the house.
Oh, sure.
Now the queen, believing that she had collected Snow White's lungs and liver, could only think that she again was the first and most beautiful woman of all. She stepped before her mirror and said,
Mirror, mirror in my hand, who is the fairest in the land?
You, my queen, are fair, it is true. But Snow White, beyond the mountains with the three dwarves, is still 1,000 bazillion times prettier than you.
What? How is that little brat still alive? I have to do something. I know. I'll poison this apple and dress up like an old lady and have her take a bite, and when she takes a bite, she'll die. Oh, God, I'm so perfect.
Then she went into her most secret room. No one else was allowed inside. And she made a poisoned apple. From the outside it was beautiful, bright, and anyone who saw it would want it. But anyone who might eat a little piece would die. Then, coloring her face, she disguised herself as a peasant woman, and thus went across the mountains to the three dwarfs. She knocked on the door.
I know the dwarves told me not to let anybody in the house, but those apples look really yummy. Maybe if I just open the door.
Hello, young lady. Would you like an apple? As you can see, I'm just a kindly old woman and definitely not a queen in disguise. Why would you even think that? You're so crazy. So, would you like an apple?
I don't know. They could be poisoned.
Well, would you take it if I took a bite of one first? I'm just a kindly old lady trying to get rid of some apples.
Sounds fair to me.
See, there's nothing wrong with these apples.
Okay. I feel funny.
Yes, I did it! Now I'm the most beautiful woman in the land.
When the dwarfs came home that evening, they found Snow White lying on the ground. She was not breathing at all. She was dead. They sat next to her and mourned for her and cried for 3 days. They were going to bury her, but she still looked as fresh as a living person and still had her beautiful red cheeks. Snow White lay there in a coffin for a long, long time, and she did not decay, but she looked like she was asleep, for she was still as white as snow and as red as blood and as black-haired as ebony wood. Now it came to pass that a prince entered these woods and happened onto the dwarf's house, where he sought shelter for the night. He saw the coffin on the mountain with a beautiful Snow White in it.
I'm Prince Fop. Look at my glasses. This is like the prettiest princess ever. It's kind of crazy though, cause she's like dead, right? Oh well.
And the prince kissed Snow White, who came back to life.
Thanks!
Sure thing. Well, I'm off to save another gorgeous woman who isn't a zombie. Haha!
But...
So they all lived happily ever after, except for the evil queen, who was made to dance on hot coals. The end.